Hey pal, are you a fan of money? Not real money, but Gil in the online game Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. You can spend it on such cool stuff like paint, houses, and cool mounts. And I know this super cool strat that can make you big boku buckaroonies. It doesn't involve selling oneself in Group Finder. Anyway, dungeon maps are a good way of making money, but you're probably thinking that you need other people to complete them. It even says in the description that you need a full party of 8 jabronis. But, as a person with no friends, you can still enjoy doing some of these maps. This is because Warriors has a super cool job with super cool buttons that do super cool things, such as Raw Intuition, which will heal you to full every 25 seconds, and Equilibrium, which will also heal you to full. At this point, Warrior is just a glorified healer with a lot more health and a giant axe. Oh, you're surrounded by enemies? Yeah, just push one of your 3 cool regen abilities to gain major health. Well anyway, there are 3 cool maps I'm going to talk about how you can make good monies. Dragon skin maps were introduced into hit expansion, Heaven's Ward. They can be done at level 60, so you don't even need to level Warrior to 90 to do these. They come with a good amount of consistent Gil making items, such as the 200,000 Gil Unhidden Leather maps, 40,000 Gil Thavnerian Leather and Silk, and some funny music scrolls. These maps are very straightforward. Just buy the maps from the market, find a location, dig and fight the poor level 60 enemies. If you pass the vibe check, a portal will open up and lead you to the sewer. Now you are level 60 without your cool abilities. This may panic you, but be not afraid. The enemies here hit like small little baby children, and you still got those healing abilities I mentioned earlier. All you need to do is smack the enemies that spawn and press Raw Intuition when you're low health to claim your reward. Cool factoroni, you can tell exactly how the enemies will spawn, just by looking at the enemies in the first cage of each room. If there are 4 of the same foes or similar size foes in the first gate, all 12 enemies will spawn right from the start. These dudes are very easy to deal with, so you should have no problem. If there are 3 enemies in the first gate, that means they will only spawn in sets of 3, meaning that you have to kill the first set of 3 in order for the next one to spawn. Also no problem. If there are 1 big boy and 2 small boys, more small boys will spawn depending on the amount of health the big boy has, so you can actually kill the 2 small boys first if you don't want to have too many small boys spawn. And if there are 2 enemies in the first gate, all 6 enemies will spawn at once. After killing all the enemies in the room, you get a chance to pick a gate. This is all just up to luck, so pick whatever you want. But if you don't pick the left door, I will judge you. There are 2 different events that can happen while you're clearing each room. One, a big massive enemy can spawn. You can actually just ignore this guy and he'll go away after a while. All he drops is dumb materia anyway. The other event is a Gabi may spawn. Now, this one I actually recommend you try killing, because if you kill him, you get more money and more gems. Now, dragon skin maps are a great pick to start with, as there aren't many threats and can be a good teaching opportunity. Next, I'm going to talk about the maps from the critically okay expansion, Stormblood. These level 70 maps are the Grizzle skin maps. Once more, you can buy them from the market board, find a location, and dig them up. This time, when a portal opens, you get a chance for 2 different dungeons. There's a Picador dungeon and a Roulette board. These are different dungeons with different rewards and different difficulties. The Picador dungeon is mostly the same, but with more difficulty. For instance, you might realize another way of mitigating damage is running. Like, literally run. They can't hit you if you're out of range. It will save you some time for your healing abilities to be off a cooldown. Roulette is more difficult due to the fact that you're not fighting a group of enemies, but a boss mob that will often spawn a group of enemies at around 60% health. This is a problem, as Raw Intuition only heals you based off the number of enemies hit, and bosses have tank busting abilities that will royally mess you up. If you look at your skills, you might realize there's a skill called Low Blow, which stuns enemies upon usage. Most bosses outside of A Realm Reborn are vulnerable to this ability. However, I realize that the bosses in this dungeon are able to be affected by it. So I recommend you memorize the tank busting abilities of these bosses and stun the boss when they cast them. Note that after the first 3 stuns, the chance of stunning a boss drops to around 50%. So just make sure you're able to heal up even after getting hit by a tank buster. These bosses can take quite a while to kill, as you're the only person doing damage, so make sure to get some mental stimulation going on the second monitor. While doing roulette, you also get special events like Golden Namazu and an onion group spawning. Usually you won't have enough DPS to kill the onion group, but you can usually kill one of the Golden Namazu for some tasty etheric crystals. In terms of money making, I say these maps are high risk, high reward. The majority of times you won't make back your gil, but if you hit some high ticket items, you can rake in the money. The final map I'm going to talk about is the level 80 Zuniri skin maps from the most Tom Holland expansion, Shadowbringers. These are the toughest maps that you can reasonably solo. One factor for this is that you only have 5 minutes to kill all the mobs after digging up the treasure chest. This will usually take most of the time to actually kill those spawn mobs, although it can also be due to my garbage gear. I recommend spawning in your chocobo to deal some extra DPS and actually focusing on your rotation. Mob spawn don't really do any damage, so you have no problems living. Just keep in mind the 5-minute limit. Once you kill the mobs, you can open up the treasure chest and pray for some calf hide. This stuff accounts for like 80% of the profit from these maps. They're common and they sell for 400,000 gil. Honestly, it's probably more efficient to not even enter the treasure dungeon if it spawns. Once more, you get a chance at a Roulette Dungeon or a Picador Dungeon. Roulette is the harder of the two and will likely take 10 minutes to kill each boss that spawns. You also can't stun any of the dungeons this time, meaning that you're gonna get smacked with some tank busters. Probably so much easier and faster with a second person, but since your general anxiety to chat with anyone, you'll just have to make do. Also, there are some bosses that are not doable with Warrior as they deal more damage than you can recover. The Picador Dungeon is much preferable to solo, and also features a cool minigame where you can gamble your rewards. Zuniri skin maps are one of the best ways of making money. You have to dedicate more time to clearing the chest mobs, and it isn't too rare to spend upwards of 40 minutes on a single dungeon. Well, congratulations, you're one step closer to gaining tons of money and solving all of life's problems. Just make sure to sell all your hard-earned loot with your retainers and watch your gil increase.